Madam President, as we all know, we're back from the Thanksgiving holiday where most of us, I hope all of us, had a chance to spend some time with our family and show thanks for the blessings that we have experienced. First and foremost of which is to live in a country like the United States of America. We truly won the lottery when we became Americans by virtue of birth or getting here as fast as we could. But after a weekend of turkey and football, we returned to some somber news. As the senator from West Virginia recounted just a moment ago, on Wednesday, 2 of our National Guard service members stationed near the White House were shot in a targeted ambush. One of these victims, Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, was only 20 years old and passed away the following day, while another victim, Sergeant Andrew Wolf, remains in critical condition, and I know we all continue to pray for his recovery. The perpetrator was an Afghan parolee. That has special significance, who entered the country under the Biden administration's Operation Allies Welcome program, which was notorious for insufficient vetting of Afghan refugees. I raised alarm bells about this mass parole of Afghan refugees back in 2024 when I co-led a letter to Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas pressing the Biden administration for their inadequate screening processes for Afghan refugees, including some who were later found to have had ties to ISIS. Madam President, I'd like to ask that the letter be made part of the record at the conclusion of my remarks. And Madam President, I'd like to point out that this risk and the threat of these kinds of deadly results was something that many of us were concerned about and raised with the administration, the Biden administration, a long time before the tragic incidents of this Thanksgiving season. We wrote in this letter, in the chaos following the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Biden-Harris administration paroled into the United States more than 77,000 Afghans with no or significantly incomplete security checks done on them prior to their arrival. And the reason why parole is an important word is because this particular shooter who shot these 2 West Virginia guardsmen did not come into the country on any one of the special immigrant visa programs. He was simply paroled, which is an exercise of executive or presidential authority, allowing an immigrant into the country without adjudicating any sort of asylum or refugee claim or anything else. And as we point out in this letter on October the 18th, 2024, we raised concerns about the Biden administration in passing this massive parole of 77,000 Afghan nationals with no or insignificant or significantly incomplete security checks done on them prior to their arrival. The letter goes on to say, in the 3 years since, the Department of Homeland Security has failed to conduct proper vetting of these parole recipients, people like the shooter who shot the 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen. A DHS Office of Inspector General report in May of 2024 found that the Department of Homeland Security had no established process or dedicated component for monitoring parole expiration for the Afghan parolee population, and that there are significant gaps in how DHS responds to potential derogatory information discovered in the recurrent vetting process. But here's perhaps the most important line in this letter. We said this ongoing failure to protect Americans from potential terroristic threats is unacceptable, and it is only a matter of time before it yields deadly results. Well, unfortunately, that prediction of this massive parole of 77,000 Afghans into the United States under the Biden administration's Operation Allies Welcome program, that prediction proved to be true and come to pass. Our prayers continue to go out to the family of Sarah Begstrom, an American hero who gave and made the ultimate sacrifice for her country. And we continue to pray for the full recovery of Andrew Wolf. These young men and women in uniform put their lives on the line day in and day out so that the rest of us can sleep safe and secure. When tragic events like this take place, it's a reminder to all of us of the sacrifices they make in order to protect our freedom and public safety. I'm grateful to President Trump, to the FBI Director Patel for their swift response and for their commitment to bring the perpetrator of this heinous event to justice. But even more than that, we need to make sure that it does not reoccur through other paroled, poorly or insufficiently vetted Afghan parolees. Unfortunately, this is part of the legacy of the Biden administration's open borders and immigration policies, where they defied the law, which reserves parole to a case-by-case basis, to do it on a categorical basis along the southern border and now with Afghan parolees.